our next speaker ready now. So our next speaker is an accomplished professional who has around 2 decades of experience in the areas of software development, infrastructure, databases, and project management. Right? He has successfully delivered a number of projects at both national and international levels, specifically focusing on the customer experience, customer user journey, all those things using the cutting edge technologies. Let's welcome Misam Abbas from Islamabad on the stage. Today, he is going to share his reflection upon the global impact that the COVID-19 pandemic has created and describe how companies are leading with agility and with a flexible mindset to conquer the pandemic. Over to you, Misam.
Hi, Anshuman. Thank you. And I truly appreciate and thankful to this wonderful events organizers for having me on this stage on this virtual platform. So, good evening, good afternoon, good morning, welcome, assalamu alaikum to uh, all the participants, all the audience who is listening to us, who has joined this event. So let me just switch to my slide deck. Okay, can you confirm me if the screen is appearing? So, Anshuman, are you there?
Yes, I'm here and I can see your presentation. Go ahead.
Okay, so okay, thank you. I hope you guys are also able to see my screen and I'm audible to you as well. So today I wanted to come up with some sort of a different thing. I mean, not at the technical end, but just wanted to present a perspective how agility has helped the whole humanity conquer this pandemic. This is a perspective that I'm going to share today. So before I move, it's a bit introduction of myself. As I was introduced that over a period of 2 decades, I've been working in multiple dimensions of technology, and currently I have been working in Mobilink Microfinance Bank, which has the largest customer base when it comes to the number of customer in Pakistan, the banking customer. Also, I'm a big believer of returning back to the community, so I'm associated within a society called Agile PKM, the VP training, and a few hobbies or my social media contacts or my certification or my areas. You can see Agile, the transformation thing, be it digital transformation, process reengineering. Scrum is something that is very close to my heart. That's why I've completed my certification track from Scrum Alliance for the Scrum Master, and then moving towards SAFe and in the Oracle certification as well. All right, so this was a bit of my intro. So what this pandemic has done to the world? I mean, if we look at the perspective from the IMF's report or what IMF has reported, it's the worst, I mean, economic down. Lastly, it happened in the Greatest Depression in 2019, 29, and 31, and then we are witnessing it again. So far it's quite tragic. I mean, these are not good numbers, and nobody would want to present such numbers. But this is how the reality is. Around 100 million cases have been reported. Uh, so many people's, so many loved ones, dear ones have lost their lives, which is around 2.1 million. And the countries and territories who have been impacted by this devastated pandemic are around 195, and it's not over yet. I mean, we are still fighting the challenges of the pandemic. The new wave has again struck. I don't know the situation or the condition in India, but in Pakistan, it has been contained so far. I mean, the people are still going around. There are some offices that are working, though partially, but things are far better as compared to the other countries where this has struck badly again. And if I see it's, I guess Pakistan is at number 30 with the current rating of the COVID after effects or the second wave. So the scenes, as we can see, are globally changed. The Rushy areas is completely turned out to be without a single human. Every roads, every place where people or we used to go, we love to see each other, we love to interact with each other, are completely shut. I mean, are completely down, which definitely has other consequences or other impacts as well on businesses. So, what were those impacts? I mean, some businesses were completely devastated by this pandemic, and we know that although they were in the right place, they were doing everything right, but this pandemic has changed everything, and unfortunately, they were unable to adapt. So these are the industry that I guess we all industry. Uh, there is a huge loss in that. If you, I mean, if we remember that the UK airline was completely shut and hotels, the businesses in Pakistan, especially in the hilly areas or the northern areas, they are unable to survive and they are deeply struggling. The oil industry, of course, when there is no traffic, when there is no commute, you can't consume, you can't sell, and that industry has been devastated. So is the restaurants. We can't go out. Everybody's locked in their home, in their houses. So this industry has been badly impacted. I know a few colleagues, a few friends who were belonging to this hotel or restaurant industry, and unfortunately, they lost their jobs and the retail stores as well. However, some businesses have completely flourished. I mean, they were they found out to be they were lucky enough to be in the right place at the right time, and they truly cashed in, like the online retail, the e-commerce thing, the digital banking kind of thing has completely flourished. I mean, they just cashed in. The video conferencing thing, this the thing that we used as an option. We liked to commute, we liked to have face-to-face interaction, but then with this pandemic we were forced to have such tools or such techniques available to run the show, to run our businesses. So video conferencing tool became in the limelight. I mean, then streaming services, we all know about the Netflix and the Amazon and other services. They just cashed in. And of course, the internet service provider, the cloud services, and the healthcare services. Because, of course, at the end of the day, you can only survive or you can only fight against this pandemic with the last service, the healthcare one. So, moving back, transformation. There were a few businesses who were brave enough to adopt, and they, after their adoption, were able to survive, and not only survive, but they were able to flourish as well. As Mr. Wells said, and Dr. Parrish, now as ever is nature's inexorable imperative. So there are a few businesses. If I see it from my colleagues or my circle's perspective, there is some interesting fact to be shared that one of my friend has a setup which was successfully running of tourism, and they were in a month's time they were managing a cash inflow or outflow of million Pakistani rupees. And with this devastation, with this pandemic, they were, I mean, completely gone off track. They had no other choice to think of some other values, to some other venues, and they just started an online grocery store. And from that point, they just, I mean, took off. They first started providing people with the basic things, the basic necessity of grocery at their homes, and then also then they started transforming. They started uh, exploring further avenues, further things that can help the people, not only them but their their arm of field people, field force. So they started delivering the COVID materials as well. So the mask and the sanitizers, and this is how they grew. And within 6 months, they have completely transformed themselves and have set up a e-commerce platform with the name of Hercheese.pk, and which is running successfully. So if we look at this perspective with the global trends, there are some other examples available as well. You might have heard about Imo's Pizzas, which were mainly known as, the pizza delivery. But with this pandemic, look at the transformation. They just started baking the face shields, which was the most important thing to safeguard you from this pandemic, from this virus, from this deadly virus. Another company, if you have heard about it, Springwise. I mean, look at their transformation. They were just selling the vodkas, and then they transformed into making it as a sanitizers, so helping the community, helping the humanity. And then transformation, a very good another business that they completely transform the furniture business. The kind of ideas that they have, you can go and watch on their websites. But then again, they jumped into this the pandemic thing, and they started building the PPEs again, and equipment for this COVID thing. And Zutility, which is a tourist guide or a tourist platform, they were providing themselves, and they started making the equipment that was badly needed in the time of pandemic. We talked about Netflix. Look at their revenues. They just spiked. It's going sky high now because nobody is going outside. It's some entertainment. It's quite frustrating when you are locked in your home and you can't commute, you can't meet with your loved ones, with your friends, with your dear ones. So obviously you need some activity that keeps you motivating, keeps you moving, keeps you with a fighting spirit against that deadly virus. So Netflix revenues, you can look at their website as well. They jumped up around 27 to 30% as compared to the same period of last year. Then the tool that we discussed, the first thing that have gone to the work from home kind of mode, it's none other than the Zoom. Of course, Microsoft Teams or other tools taken up the pace as well, but Zoom was the first thing that anyone would have thought about. So their revenues, they just spiked. Then Amazon, of course, their store and their services, they were completely at the right time. It was something, some kind of a thing that clicked for them, it sparked for them, and they were just doing their normal business, and they were able to manage the mass or the growth or the requirement from the masses. So coming back to Pakistan, whatever we discussed, these were the global challenges and how business transformed. These were a few examples. When it comes to the third world country like us, we had our own challenges. When you talk about the basic health facility, it's very little, very less. There are multiple reasons. Of course, the infrastructure is not capable enough. We do not have those facilities. We do not have those budgets. But then again, we have some other problem as well, like people are quite ambitious, quite inclined toward the religion, and all of the activities were stopped. And there was a psychological problem as well. And also work from home, which was forced upon us, on everybody. It could go very good in the Western countries where you have a separation, or the houses are built like this to have some spaces for everyone for any kind of situation. But not in the subcontinent. It's pretty hard to manage this. And if you have experience or if you have heard about it, it is very, very challenging time to to do it as a work from home, because you do not have a separate space to manage your work from home. And if you have kids in your home, that becomes even more tougher. Then again, how education would have continued for such a country who is already being deprived by this war on terror and other things? They do not have the quality education, or they do not have the leverage to have like Scrum Alliance or other certification within their country. So these were the challenges, and Pakistan was surrounded by all those challenges, the law and order situation as well. I mean, you name it, the quality of food, in the daily wages, the poverty level. I mean, they were all the things. Pakistan was badly surrounded. So, how we did, how we as a nation fought against this? Initially, the government was slow to respond. I mean, I remember our PM was quite optimistic on the country completely. There were some cases reported. There were some case reported after came from Iran, and it started from there. But the government was not in the interest or in country. Then all of a sudden, when the number grew, there was kind of a panic button that was pressed, and a complete lockdown was imposed across the country. This definitely triggered the businesses to suffer, because nobody was allowed to move, and there was a complete shutdown, which again has caused the most of the crisis that has, I guess, hit Pakistan badly. But we survived. So that crisis was the major proportion of the employees or the workers were the daily wagers, who were just earning on their daily, uh, the masons or the dairy, the farmers, whoever were supplying, whoever were doing their businesses on daily basis, were badly hit. So luckily, or I should say that they might have some plans to cater such situation. There were some drastic measures taken, and they were implemented then and there as well. They formed the National Command and Control Center, which was looking to help provide the updated data, keep track of how many tests have been performed, how many people are quarantined, and how many have recovered. Because at that time, we all know there was no medication invented at that time. So that helped a lot to shape up the things, to control the things. And then the country launched a program with the name of ESAS, just to help those poor people who are mainly the daily wages and are able to earn any money. So with this program, what we did, what the government did, was that they supported 12 million families. Every family was given 12,000 for a period of 6 to 7 months, where there was a complete lockdown. Although this is a very small ticket when you see at the value perspective, but then again, to reach to that masses, to 12 million families, it requires a lot of courage. It requires a lot of effort. So they were able to deliver it, and to deliver it with transparency is another key thing. So all bodies, all local, federal, and intelligence and other teams were part of this initiative that was governed under this ESAS program. So another aspect of this pandemic was that it helped people unite again, and most of the people in their personal capacity. I know a few friends of mine who were running this service of providing foods to daily wages, or to the people who are needy on daily basis, and they were not getting any support, or they even not thought of or seeking any support from any official, from any government institute. They were just doing it on their own. So there was the time that the nation stood up. Corporates, so many people started donating to help the poor manage in this tough time. how, as a nation, we transformed during this pandemic. So the first thing that again the government did was a great job. They shook their hand with some private parties, private partners working in the industry, especially in the education segment, and they launched an education channel. And the numbers are very, very encouraging. I mean, it helped to around 20 million students, which is remarkable. As I said, that this also triggered the people, or they forced the people to move towards the digital economy. Usually in the subcontinent, people are quite, I mean, they feel very comfortable when it comes to dealing with this currency thing or the physical cash thing. They do not like to have a digital interface, but this forced, and the people adopted as well. As a result, there was an increase in the online banking customer base. It grew along at a rate of, I mean, 36% for a 6 or 7 months period. Then there was a spike in the transaction as well. Of course, the number of subscriber increasing, and there are no other ways to transact. People avoided to have the cash as well, just because of the touch of the fear that this might increase or might spread the virus. So the digital transaction, the digital currency flourished, and it saw an increment or increase of 139%. How my organization, Mobile Link Bank, played its role when it comes to coping up with this pandemic. We know that the hospitals or the healthcare segment was something that was not allowed or was not in position to shut down themselves or start working from home. So they had to commute daily to their offices, to the hospitals, to provide basic health services to the people. So was the case with this kind of industry that I belong to, the financial industry, the banking sector. We had to meet, or we had to help people meet their financial needs. So there were some segments that were working in the back office. They were allowed, or they were sent on the work from home model. But of course, when it comes to the branches who are directly facing the customer and helping them to meet their financial needs, they were they were working as warriors. I mean, they are just putting themselves into risk, handling the cash, helping the people. So, being, as I said, the largest customer base in Pakistan, which we have around 21 million. So we had, of course, the greater responsibility. And people, where would they go when they have some financial need? Even if they are digital, there are still certain areas in Pakistan, and I mean, if you look at the smartphone penetration with this perspective, because if they need to perform digital transaction or they need to have some debit cards, so you have to have ample amount of touch points where they can transact using their debit cards. You need to have such ATMs placed everywhere, which of course is not possible to be placed in every corner, every area, every station. So the other way of doing this financial need thing is, of course, the smartphone and then using the mobile app or internet banking. So these were the channels which were provided to transact or to meet their financial need. But then again, if someone is stuck at home and they do not have this kind of facility, where would they go? How would they combat with this pandemic thing? So what we did, we continued our branch operations despite of the fact that we know that the businesses were shut down, or it was a complete lockdown situation. But yes, the government also understood, and the banks, so many other in Pakistan, continued their operations. And there were times when the branches of banks were hit by this pandemic thing. I mean, their staff were reported, and they had no other choice than to disinfect the branch and close it. And the staff were quarantined as well. So even in those times, the bank had spotted a few areas where they could run the branch operations as an alternative premises. So we kept on fighting. We continued our branch operations. We not only that, but we organized some health programs within the branch, and we offered our customer pre-medical services as well, which was something very great. And then we launched a few new products, and they were launched, I mean, within no time, just to give the people peace and comfort with their insurance and medical facility. We also launched the product of medical facility of providing the medical services, medication at their doorsteps. I mean, I salute to all those warriors of Mobile Link Bank who served the people with a lot of courage, with a lot of passion. Then we booked around 100 COVID insurances in villages. I mean, these were uh, remarkable achievements. I mean, it requires, as I said, a lot of courage. There were law and order situations as well. There were challenges of commuting. There were challenges of reaching to the people because of some uh, extremist kind of ideology. So you have to take extra caution when it comes to serving the female gender or the female customer base in villages. So all these were very tough challenges, especially in the time of pandemic. These are just few visuals how we set up the medical health facilities in our branches. Again, the major chunk, we know that 51% of Pakistan's population is based on females. So you have to, I mean, take care of them as well, especially the poor people living in the village. So we set up not only these medical centers in the branches, but to the nearest vicinity of those villages as well, to make it more comfortable for the customers, for the people to visit us and get their uh, checkup and some medications as well. Okay, so when we talk about Jazz Cash or Mobilink Bank, the digital transactions that boosted up, it certainly helped the people with the convenience and the economy as well to run the show, and the wheel was moving, was running even in the lockdown situation. So if I talk about the lending, the leading fintech that we are, the Jazz Cash, I mean, our transaction grew 52%, and we processed 1.1 billion transaction. I mean, this is matchless when it comes to the complete digital or the conventional banking in Pakistan. I mean, we touched upon 4 million, 4.2 million to be very precise, in a single day, the number of volume of transaction that we touched using this digital channel, be it mobile app or USSD or the debit card or the internet banking. And then again, it process or it when it comes to the value part of it, 4.2 billion is the number of transaction, while the volume of the transaction was around 9.7 billion. And of course, to manage such thing, to have this kind of system running, you need to invest in your technology, in your people. So we did investment in this segment as well. That was around 2.3 billion. Okay, so when it comes to the pandemic, we discussed the financial challenges, we discussed the medical, education, or health related challenges. But there was another aspect. I just touched upon it. This is work from home. As I said, it's not easy when you are working from home, especially in the subcontinent or in Pakistan, where you do not have the leverage of having separate rooms or separate areas where you can easily do your work. It's kind of a quite, I mean, complex situation. It, for me, if I compare it with myself, it looks like that I have imposed a curfew on my family, because they do take care a lot. They never speak loudly. I mean, the kids in the family, They never come closer to the room. So putting them into a bed. What was our strategy as an organization? It was to be responsible because we had to open and we have to uh, be present so the people can meet their financial need. And this was the first thing, and then of course associated with this was that we are available for people to meet their financial needs, and we need to comply with all the SOPs taking into account, and then learned, and against the learning we need to adopt as well. So we moved our back office staff to work from home, and I mean 10% in the initial they were allowed to come to the office. Of course, these were the domains, or these were the people, or these were the staff who were required to support their front office or front branch staff, or the warriors that were roaming around, going door to door to provide services. So that was the approach that we took. And of course, as I mentioned earlier, our branches remained open, whether it is, I mean, they were infected to another places. We just tried our level best that the show must go on, and we just continue helping our people. And if we compare the performance, despite of all the challenges, how it turned out to be when they were working from home. I mean, their productivity was improved. Of course, they were productive. They had more time to be spent with their families, with their loved one, and they were not rushing towards office. There was no need to go to commute. They were just staying. Yes, there were some irregularities. I guess it happened across the globe, that you were not able to manage your time wisely, or you're not able to manage the time, uh, divide the time, in fact I should rather say. I mean, myself and my team, we used to work till 9 or 10 p.m. just because our quantum of calls was drastically increased. Because when you sit with each other in a single room, you tend to ask so many things, and you tend to clarify so many things, and then you continue to do your work. But when you're working in a work from home kind of mode, you need to have long or lengthy calls, and not all the teams can sit in in a call. Of course, every department is working with their own teams. So this was a challenge that we all faced 2 to 3 weeks, and then it is started normalizing. People started adjusting accordingly. Then how to go about it, and how to address our queries when we are working in WFH mode. So it drastically improved the productivity. And then collaboration. It was also noticed that the collaboration improved after a certain period to 33%. And meetings were also effective once they learned about how to deal with this, how to go about it, how to manage the time, and how to lead the meetings in this work from home model. The meeting effectiveness was also noticed that it grow, or it touched upon 80%. And the focus, of course, when we are in offices, we tend to have some gossips, some chit chats. There are people, I mean, they do take so many breaks. I mean, they go for a smoke, they go for a cup of tea, and coffees. All these were not, and they were just stick to their seats, and just putting all their focus on their projects, on their assignments, on their work. So this is another aspect of this pandemic, that it in, it enforces us to go from home, work from home. But then we all, by learning, by adopting, we managed to again conquer this battle of working from home as well. So if I come to a conclusion again, what we notice is agile is, I guess, we all believe is nothing new. Of course, Scrum would have been is something new, but when it comes to agile, the human mind be tuned up to adopt changes, to reflect changes, to learn, and then after learning, after adopting, reflect those lessons in their daily routine. So what we did, I guess it's pretty much the same thing that the world has witnessed and they have adopted to the situation. And yes, this agility has helped us to conquer this pandemic, even though we lost our loved ones. But one day we all have to go, but we must not lose the hope, and we must remain responsive, adaptive. So in the end, I just want to share this famous saying from none other than this Charles Darwin, that it's not the strongest that survive or the most intelligent, but one most responsive to change. So this was it from my side. I hope you enjoyed the talk, and I'm open for the questions if there are any, or allow me some time to share a very little motivational story before I sign off from here. Do you have any queries?
Till now, I don't see any queries in the question and answer section yet. So you may proceed with your speech,
Okay.
whatever you.
Okay. So
Yeah.
just I guess without any motivation, I mean, these things do help us to move on, not only ourselves but to motivate others as well. So I just came across with a short story which was quite motivating. I just thought to share it with the audience as well. There was a guy in UK, and or maybe any other country. Let's not put it in the UK. So there was a guy who was who belonged to a very humble family, and who had that uh, uh, strange kind of appearance. The people used to make fun of him. I mean, his nose or his ears, and that guy, that kid, cornered himself just because he was unable to take all those comments, all those fun or jokes who were made on his appearance. So he was, I mean, struggling throughout the beginning, but he was a fighter as well. So as he was from a humble background, uh, he was not having a leverage of going to bigger school or his daily thing. So while continuing his education, he opted to go in a domain where there were not so many kids, or there was less interaction required with his age fellows. So he joined in the science division and continued his studies. He did good. I mean, his teachers weren't expecting him. He had a problem of stuttering. I mean, his voice was not clear, and his making fun. It really, I mean, pushed him back. So the days goes by, and when he reached to that school or college level, to the college level and the university level, he had that kind of a dream that he should transform himself into as an actor, and he could do better in that. So who, while he was continuing his studies, he was good in his studies as well. He tried to join some theater or some shows where he can demonstrate his skills of acting. But and once he got a chance as well, but when he on his entry he moved onto the stage, unfortunately he couldn't speak properly, and then people started laughing. So it was a very bad kind of a start for his acting career. He applied for a few roles as well at a few studios as well, but he got rejected everywhere. Then he realized, then he thought that asking people, why should not I do it myself? So he collected some money by doing some work, by doing some jobs, and started his own show. He produced his own show. And then after a few times, when he saw that his show is doing good, people is responding well, he spoke to a broadcast and requested them that if they can look onto his show, and if they like, he just wanted it without any cost. The channel accepted the offer, they liked the content, and they started that show, and it was aired. And the show got, I mean, tremendous hit from across all around the world, and they started loving that show, which brought smiles on lots of faces. And after some time, the channel contacted that guy that they want to buy this show, and they want to run it with their own name. But that guy denied this and requested that I cannot sell this to you, and this will remain with my name. Uh, we all know this show as it has brought lots of joy in our life. It's Mr. Bean, Robin Atkinson. So this was the guy who never lost the hope, and he continued his journey. He had this self belief of that one day he will be a star, he will be an actor. And the stuttering in his voice, he took advantage of that. He transformed the character, I mean, adopted again this agility thing when you look at the different perspective, and became the number one show in the world. So that's it from my side. I just wanted to leave on the note of some, I mean, morale booster kind of thing.
Yep. Thank you, Misam. Thank you so much for your speech, for this insightful discussion here on very pertinent subject. And thank you so much on behalf of the entire team for your time today.
Thank you so much. I thoroughly enjoyed, and once again, thanks for having me on this virtual floor of
It's
wonderful people.